Hello, Catherine Foley is my name, and I'm going to read from my book Beyond the Breakwater, Memories of Home. And today's chapter is 59, The Missing Painting. And it's about my mother as an artist. And there's a lovely photograph in the book of her relaxing after hanging her paintings for an art exhibition on Rhine in Ring. And you'll see that. So today's chapter, The Missing Painting. My mother used to sit at the kitchen table at home and paint away to her heart's content. She'd lose herself in the work and forget about time. It was only when my father stuck his head in around 6 o'clock, wondering about the tea, that she'd realise how late it was. She had always pottered with art, driftwood, shell pictures, rockeries in the garden, masks for Halloween, bespoke knitting designs, and all manner of things. She had always been making things and taking photographs. But it was only when we had all flown the coop that she had enough time to take up a paintbrush. It was then that her life as an artist took off in earnest. In each painting, she seemed to capture something of herself, of her own youth growing up on the mouth of the Suir in Passage East. There is a certain timeless energy, a stillness and an innocence in every one of her pictures. Her paintings of boats, piers, moonscapes, gardens, landscapes, seagulls and cliffs hang all around our house in Ring. They are a tangible link to my mother and her individuality. They are not abstract, but detailed and lyrical works. They are paintings that tell stories. Like a poem by Walter de la Mare, they are full of expectation and stark wonder. And so it happened that one Sunday morning, some years ago, when I was at home, I saw that my mother was all aflutter when we told her that local painter, the great Mick Mulcahy, was on his way over to the house. Mick is an expressionist painter whose work hangs in homes and galleries around the world. Having heard something about Mama's painting, he wanted to have a look at her work for himself. She welcomed him in, and Mick set about inspecting the paintings. She smiled nervously as she waited for his verdict. "Magnificent," he declared, growing more effusive as he studied each successive painting. My mother beamed with delight. "Will you do a swap? Will you give me one of yours in exchange for one of mine?" he suggested. And my mother agreed, honoured to be recognised in such a fashion. "Pick whichever one you'd like," she told him. So Mick chose a painting that was hanging in our hall at the time, a medium-sized painting that I particularly liked. A raw, visceral scene of a jagged rock with 3 seagulls swooping across it out towards a turquoise sea. Mick went away with it under his arm, and my mother was pleased. They were friends from then on, both respectful of the other, each recognising a kindred spirit. Years passed, and in time my mother had to stop painting, as the debilitating illness that claimed her prevented her from holding a brush even. But when she passed away in 2011, we had her paintings, each one more precious than the last. Yet I often wondered about the painting she had given to Mick Mulcahy. Like a special memory, I missed that particular one, and I felt its loss. After Mick moved away from the area, his former studio, a great shed at the side of the road, fell into ruin. I used to pass this hulk of a building with its corrugated iron roof and nettles growing out of its slabbed entrance, and I'd wonder if he'd taken my mother's painting with him, or if he'd forgotten it and left it there in the damp, thrown in the corner to rot from mildew. I never felt I could ask him for the painting, as I had no claim on it, so I came to accept that the painting was lost forever. Until recently, that is. I was at a funeral, sympathising with a neighbour over the death of his own mother, when he mentioned it out of the blue. "You know, I have a painting your mother did," he said. "She did a swap with Mick Mulcahy and he gave it to me to mind." He explained how we used to go into the shed where Mick worked. "The painting," he said, "it caught my eye the minute I went in, and I asked Mick who had done it. Ina Foley, he told me. He said he had done a swap for it and that he had to give your mother one of his." I smiled at the idea that the painting still existed. Paud, my neighbour, offered to give it back to me, but I declined. On another day, he called to insist again that we have it. And in the end, we brought him in and showed him how many of our mother's paintings we had hanging on the walls. We told him that it was enough to know he had it and that it was safe. He was happy then. The story had come full circle. My mother's painting is in his house still, there in the warmth, appreciated and on view. She'd have been delighted to know that, and to know that Mick, her fellow artist, had taken good care of it all along. I should have known that he would. So that's all for today. Talk to you again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.